Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon, dear students. So, basically, here I would like to start with the second lecture of the same chapter, that is, On to the Summit, We Reach the Top. So, in the previous lecture, we were done with the explanation part, right? Now, in this lecture, we will start with the activities, that is, the brainstorming activities. Okay, so as I already told you in the previous lecture that now we won't be dealing with like the previous question answer type of pattern. We have to deal with all the activity based questions. Okay, so here we will start with this. Okay, so there are so many questions, and now here we will be dealing with this much of questions. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So the first question is that A1. Summarize to the class in your own words the highly risky and dangerous journey of Tenzing and Hillary from the base to the top of Mount Everest. So basically, as we discussed the chapter, it is all about the tracking, right? The climbing of Mount Everest, correct? About two people here, right? One was the Tenzing Sherpa, and the partner who was there with him, who was accompanying him, was the Hillary, Edmund Hillary, right? So the whole chapter is about their journey, how they, climbed the top of the Mount Everest, the whole journey, the whole story, the feeling what they had at that time while climbing, and even when they reached on top, the whole journey regarding that. But right now, in this question, what he is asking particularly is what was the highly and so what was the risky and dangerous part for Tenzing and Hillary? That's what the question is asking all about. Okay, so here is the answer. Tenzing and Hillary set out from Camp 9 early on Friday morning to continue their journey to the top. So, this we have already discussed, right? That when they started their journey from the Camp 9 on Friday morning, right? And they continued that towards the top, correct? Then what happened? Tenzing was determined to conquer the peak even at the cost of his life. What he said when we were dealing with the explanation part. So what we came to know that what Tenzing Sherpa said, that even if there will be a it will be a cost of his death, or like if even if he will have to pay by his life, or like he will have to sacrifice his own life to while reaching towards the top, then too he will be doing it, and he was ready to even sacrifice his life just to reach on the top. And that much determined he was while climbing up. They took turns to take the lead because the one that follows has difficult job of acting as an anchor for the team. Tenzing was carrying the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, India, and the United Nations in order to plant them at the summit. So, what he's saying here, that sometimes Edmund Hillary was like guiding or like leading. Sometimes Tenzing Sherpa was leading. So whoever have been like was following, it was quite like a difficult job to take the lead and everything. So that's what he's talking here. And what he's saying, he had the flags of United Nations climbing the west side, where they had to cross a steep line of rocks. Steep means basically the like the sloping one. Okay, so what he's saying, that after they were climbing up. So after the steady walk of or steady climbing of 1 hour, they had to cross or they had to cut across the south face. Okay, and there was the steep rock of line. Okay, and this proved to be the difficult and this took some time. And this part was the most difficult part for them, and it took quite more time than usual. However, once they had cleared these, they only had to make it past a snow covered incline. Now, once they crossed this, after that, there was not a lot of difficulties or something like that. There was just the another difficulty which was waiting, which was not this much actually. That was snow covered incline. Okay, this became progressively easier as the steepness of the incline decreased. So the way they were moving ahead, the steepness was getting inclined. Okay, and it was getting decreased. The way they were coming closer to that, they neared the top. Although the last 60 or 70 feet up the top were not very dangerous. Now, what he's saying, the last 60 or 70 feet, what they had to climb, it was not that difficult and not even that much dangerous. So, they maintained the same steady pace and reached the small flattened summit almost together. So, what then he's saying here? Then, after that, it was not that difficult or not that dangerous part, but then too they continued with the same speed. They were not, getting slow, or like they were not getting fast. Small flattened summit. Okay, almost together, as we discussed a lot about it, right, previously, that there was a country, like the controversy which was waiting already or have been arising, like who reached the summit first or something like that. There was a thing. So they signed the agreement, and on that they signed, both of them, right, so that there should be no controversy later. And the rope that was tied between them was a symbol of their teamwork and companionship. So basically, as we already discussed, they were tied with the rope, right? And that was a sign of their true companionship. Is that clear to everyone? Now we'll be dealing with another question. Complete the web highlighting the feelings, emotions of tensing after reaching the summit. So basically, what we have to do here is the diagram which is already given. So we have to complete this web diagram. By which thing we have to fill it? Basically, what is the thing given here? Tenzing's feelings, emotions after reaching the summit. So what exactly he expressed, or what exactly he was feeling at that time when he reached the top, that's what we have to write over here in these four blank boxes. So what we have to write, what exactly he was feeling, like the emotions what he had when he reached the top, that's what we have to write in it. So here is the answer. The first and the very important that he did, and that was clearly visible, was gratitude to God. Obviously, we have seen this, right? Like we have discussed it in the previous lecture. When he reached on top, first what he did, he offered some of the stuff, he presented that as an offering to presented in like as an offering for the god, right? So he basically shown his gratitude, and leave about that, and even he thanked, and what he said, like finally the god had made it possible for me after the so much of failed attempts. Finally I reached, and that is only because of the god's blessing, that I reached here finally, and that was showing his gratitude towards a god. Feeling fit with an absolute clear mind. So we also discussed in one of the part of the chapter what he said, when I reached the top I was very clear in my mind, like I was not feeling sick, or I was not like some in a unconscious zone or something like that. I was completely fit and fine. There was no issue of my health, or like even mentally I was completely stable, so there was not an issue at all. And that's what he said, I was feeling completely fit and absolutely clear mind. Okay, and then there is another emotion or the feeling that he had, determination for safe descent. So as they climbed up safely, and now as it was the time to climb down, so what he said, if you remember, what he said, climbing down is more difficult task than as compared to the climbing up, right? So that's what now he was worried when he reached on top. We safely reached on top, but now as we will be moving down, so he was worried about that. So what he was concentrating on, to climb down safely. So, and the last point, very happy and excited. Obviously, someone reached the top of the Mount Everest, and especially after so much of the attempts that he made, he was failed in that, and finally, after a lot of attempts, the first attempt, if any person reaches on the second, third, whatever, it doesn't matter, but if you reach the top, that is the biggest achievement. And obviously there will be, like, you can't measure your happiness that time, and that's what the feeling he had that time. Now, the another question: glance through the text again and explain the qualities of Tenzing Norgay. Pick lines that show his unique qualities. One is done for you. Now, basically, what we have to do, we have to take a glance of the text. Basically, we have to go through that again, and what we have to do, we have to explain the qualities of Tenzing Norgay. Means basically the Tenzing Sherpa. Okay, so we have to pick the lines which shows the unique qualities of Tenzing Sherpa. So we have to find those lines and write here. So there are three columns. First is serial number, second is qualities, and third is lines. So what are the qualities we are selecting? Okay, and after that we have to give a proof of that. The proof for the particular word, whatever we are selecting the quality. So we have to give the proof of that by giving or writing some of the lines from the text. Is that clear? So one is already done. What's that? The quality is patriotism. Basically, it's written here, patriotic. And what is the line which gives the proof of his patriotism? So that's what it's written here. I told Colonel Hunt that I was carrying the Indian flag with me, and I would like it to be on the top with other flags. Basically, what we discussed in the chapter, that when the Colonel Hunt asked him to plant these three flags on the top, that was of Great Britain and of the of Nepal also. So what he said, that I have the Indian flag also with me, and I would like to be on top with all those three flags also, but at the same time of Indian flag also. So what he said, I would like to be on top, and I would like to plant all these four flags on top, and I would like to reach on top with all these four flags. So that basically shows his patriotism, right? So now let's see the other points. So see the second point, spiritual. So, what exactly portrays his, spiritual qualities? So, the proof of this we will, give through this line. My first thought on reaching the top was a sense of gratitude to God. Obviously, we discussed about it in the previous lecture, right? That when he reached on top, he thanked God, right? And what he said, just because of the God's blessing, I am able to reach here. He blessed me with this successful attempt. That's what he was, showing his gratitude. So that's what it is all about. It shows he was spiritual, right? Now see the third quality, family oriented. So what shows that he was family oriented? So here is the line: my youngest daughter Nima had given me a pencil before I left home. So when we were dealing with the explanation part, so we discussed about his youngest daughter Nima, right? Who gave him the pencil, and what she asked him to do, when you will be reaching on top, just present it as my offering to the God, the pencil. And that was not even like the extraordinary pencil or something very special about that. No, nothing like that was there. That was just an ordinary pencil, and even not too big, it was the smaller one. Then too, it was special because that was her own possession, and that's what she gave it to him and asked him to present it as an offering for the God, and that's what he did. So that shows that he was family oriented. Now, a good friend, the fourth quality, that is that he was a good friend. So what shows that he was a good friend? As I stood at the top, I remembered him and felt that he was with me. So basically, he was talking about the scarf, right? The scarf that he was wearing when he reached the top. So that scarf was basically given by one of his friend on the previous expedition, right? So that scarf which was given 1 year back, exactly 1 year back, so he was wearing that scarf this time when he reached on the top of the Mount Everest. And what he said, when I was wearing it and standing with that scarf around me, so I felt as if he is there with me. Now moving towards another question, question A2, and now the third one in that, and the third's first part. Write down the significance of the following in the context of on the summit. Red scarf. Now the chapter is onto the summit. So according to that, according to the context of the onto the summit, there are some of the important aspects of the chapter have been given. So in which sense those aspects have been presented in the chapter, we have to discuss with that. So there have been a discussion of red scarf, as we just discussed, right? That he was there on the top with that red scarf around him. So what is the part, or what is the in which sense it have been used in the chapter? That's what we will see. So the author was wearing a red scarf at the summit, which was given to him by his great friend Lambert. Lambert had been the leader of the 1952 Swiss expedition to the summit, of which the author had been a part. Okay, now what he is saying basically in the point A, that the author, as we know, was wearing a red scarf, right? And when he reached the top, and that scarf was given by his friend Lambert, who was the leader in the 1952 Swiss expedition. Okay, so that time Lambert gave him this scarf, and now while reaching towards the top, or while finally he reached the top of Mount Everest, he was wearing that scarf around him. Now B, the author had worn the scarf all the way up the mountain from Darjeeling as a mark of respect and admiration for his friend. So basically, when he started from the Darjeeling, from that time only he was wearing that scarf, and till he reached the top, till that time he was wearing it, and it was the sense of like a mark of respect. Not only did the author remember his close friend, but also wished he were there. So it's not just about, as we know, it was a historic success basically. So it was not just about remembering his friend, but also he wished, if he would be here, he was wishing him to be there. So it shows, the kind of respect that he had. By wearing the scarf, the author acknowledged Lambert's contribution to the journey and stated that it gave him a feeling of having his friend with him at the top. So, by wearing that scarf, the author obviously acknowledged, Lambert's contribution in his journey of the climbing, but also he stated that it was the feeling as if he's there with me when he was wearing the scarf. Thus the scarf was a tribute to his friend. So basically, in which sense the scarf have been discussed here? As a tribute basically to his friend. Now the second is again in that question only. The second point is Hoshiar, as we discussed in the chapter. The word Hoshiar means caution. Obviously, we discussed in it in the previous lecture, right? Hoshiar, in which sense it's already used, caution. So the climb down from the summit was more difficult and dangerous than the climb up. Obviously, we just discussed, right? Climbing down is more difficult than climbing up. So we have to pay more attention now while climbing down. There was a greater danger of slipping and falling into the Kangshung Glacier below. So basically, it was greater danger now while climbing down, and there was a danger of slipping down, right? And if once you slip, you will fall down and you will directly go and stop where? In the Kangshung Glacier below. Thus, even though climbing down obviously takes lesser time, but you have to be more attentive and you have to be more alert while climbing down. So that's what he is talking here. With regard to this, the author notes that they needed Hushiyar while coming down. So that's what he is saying, that while climbing down, they needed to, be more Hushiyar while reaching down. Now the third part is kerosene flavored tea. He discussed in one of the part, like when they reached the they were climbing down. So one of their friend came with the tea in their hand, but the tea was smelling like a kerosene. So that's what the part here it's discussed. So after the historic conquest of Everest, the author and Hillary met other teammates on their way down. with whom they shared the news of their victory. So basically, what he's saying, while climbing down after conquering their historic, journey. So finally, when they were climbing down, they met with one of their teammate, okay, and they shared their story of victory with him. As they got nearer to Camp 8, one of the teammates, Noise, brought them tea. So when they reached nearer to the Camp 8, so another teammate came, and the teammate was Noise, okay, and he brought some tea for them. Mountaineers often use kerosene stoves for cooking, which leaves the smell of the fuel in the food. So basically, what he's saying, like, the mountaineers basically use the kerosene stoves. Okay, obviously, so if you make food on that, so basically, sometimes it leaves the smell of kerosene, and that's what he's talking here. To meet the author and Hillary and congratulate them on their success. So basically, while making tea, he was in a hurry, and that hurry of their teammate shows that he was very much excited and eager to meet author and even to the Hillary, and he was very excited to congratulate them on their success. So he made the tea in a hurry, and in that hurry, he might have dropped some of the drops of kerosene, or like anyhow the smell came into that. Okay, now in spite of the unpleasant smell of the tea, the author drinks it, which highlights his acknowledgement of the efforts of his friend and the bond of their friendship. So, like as we know, it was smelling like kerosene. Then too, they drank the tea. So what it shows? It shows, like that the acknowledgement towards their friend, because he took a lot of effort to make that tea and to come up and to congratulate them and to be happy with them. So obviously someone is doing a lot of things for you, so obviously you feel acknowledged, you feel happy. And if they brought something for you, and if you deny to have that, obviously it will be like somewhere like disrespecting of that person. So he did not want to do that, and that's why instead of denying or not drinking that tea, he had it. So it showed that yes, he respected that person's feelings and emotions, and he acknowledged him. And it also shows that the author was too happy to worry about the taste of the tea. So obviously he was too happy, so he wasn't worried about the taste and everything, but instead he acknowledged his friend. Now the another one is Isaacs. So as hiking and a climbing tool typically used to help the mountaineer while ascending. So obviously, ice axe is basically we know that it is a hiking and climbing tool, okay, which is typically used while doing the mountaineering, and it helps the mountaineers basically. In the given extract, the author uses one end of the ice axe to hold the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, the United Nations, and India up high at the summit. As we discussed in the previous lecture, what we have talked about it, like when he reached on top at one of the corner of the X, he he held the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, United Nations, and even of the India. So it is important to note that since the journey up the mountain was dangerous and tiring, the author did not carry any special instrument to help him hoist the flags. So as we know already that it was a very difficult task to reach the top, and it was the dangerous one. So he was not carrying any special something tool or anything or instrument, like to hoist the flag on the top. So that's now. So what he did, however, at the top of the summit, his will to plant the flags was so strong that he used whatever resources he had to make it happen. So as he was not having any instrument on which he could have hoist the flags, so instead what he did, whatever the things was available with him, whatever the things was there with him, the resources which was present over there, he tried to make it happen with that only. As a mountaineer, his ice axe was the most obvious tool for the job. So as mount as he was a mountaineer, so obviously he would be having the ice axe. So that So that I-6 became the part of the great moment. The great moment, which was the great moment? Hoisting of the flags on the top of the Mount Everest. This moment was captured by Hillary as proof and memory of their historic feat. So, this moment when he was hoisting the flag through the I-6 on the top of the Mount Everest, so that moment has been captured by Hillary, and that was the proof of and even the memory of their historic feat. I hope you must have understood this one. Okay, now the last one, anchor. So, an anchor is a device or method used to support the climber's weight. It is primarily used as protection from falling. So, what is saying here? Anchor is basically what? It is a device or a method which is used to support the climber's weight. Okay, and it is primarily used as protection from falling. In the given extract, Tenzing and Hillary are described as a two-man rope team. They were joined by a safety rope to protect them from a fall. So basically, they were connected with the rope, right? And they were joined through that. So they were a team. They were joined with that safety rope. Correct. So that they will be safe from falling down. The author notes that on their ascent to the top, his partner Hilary and he would take turns to lead the climb. So what they made sure while climbing up that sometimes Hilary was taking the lead, sometimes the Tenzing Sherpa was taking the lead. In such a situation, the one who follows acts like an anchor and must support the weight of the leading climber in case of a slip or fall. So obviously the person who leads is called anchor here. Okay, so the person who is leading means who is ahead, who is leading, who is moving ahead, they have to support the other person's weight also, and they have to take the responsibility of if the other person should not slip or something like that, so they have to be responsible for that. This is a difficult job and therefore was performed by both of them in an alternate fashion. So obviously it was a difficult task, so they did it in an alternate way. Okay, sometimes like Hilary was leading and sometimes Tenzing Sherpa was leading. Given the life saving nature of the technique, it is clear that the two of them had to trust each other with their lives, and hence the author implies that they were each other's anchors. So, what he is saying, like, as they were, like, using the life saving nature basically, or the technique they were using, so it was clear like both of them they had to trust each other. Obviously if they doesn't trust each other, so it won't be that easier or that or it won't be possible for them to reach on top, right? If they had even a bit doubt on anyone, right? So they had to trust each other and on their lives, so that implies like they were each other's anchors. So I hope you must have understood this much. In the upcoming lecture, we will be dealing with the other brainstorming activities which is remaining yet.